They thought I couldn't hear from the next room. They talked about selling my business and splitting it fairly. What they didn't know was that the meeting was already being recorded. I wasn't even trying to eavesdrop. I'd been lying on the couch in my home office, eyes closed, half listening to the rain hammer against the windows. 32 years of building Logan & Sons manufacturing had left me tired in ways sleep couldn't fix. The company ran itself these days, or so I told myself. My son Derek had been handling operations for 3 years now. Smooth as silk, everyone said. A natural leader. The voices drifted through the wall from the living room. Derek's voice, confident and measured. Then Jessica's, his wife, sharper and more insistent. I recognized the tone immediately. She used it when she wanted something. "Your father's not getting any younger," Jessica said. "We need to think practically." I opened my eyes, stared at the ceiling. "I'm not saying that. I'm saying we should be prepared. The company's value is at an all-time high. If we wait too long, the market could shift. We could lose millions." My phone was on the side table. I picked it up, opened the voice recorder app, and hit the red button. Old habits. I'd recorded business meetings for years, back when handshake deals still mattered, and people tried to change the terms later. The phone captured everything within 20 feet clearly. "What are you suggesting?" Derek asked. "I'm suggesting we have a conversation with him, a real one, about succession planning, about what happens next." "He already made me COO, that's the succession plan." Jessica laughed, not the pleasant sound she made at dinner parties. This was colder. "Derek being COO doesn't mean anything if he still controls the board, if he still has final say on every major decision. We need actual authority." I sat up slowly. My heart was beating faster now. "What kind of authority?" Derek's voice had shifted. Still calm, but there was interest there, curiosity. "A buyout structure. We approach him with a fair offer. He retains a percentage, maybe 20%, and steps back completely. We bring in some outside investors to help with the purchase. Your father gets to retire comfortably, and we get to run the company the way it needs to be run." He'd never agree to that. He would if we frame it right. Appeal to his ego. Tell him he built something so valuable that it's outgrown one-man leadership. Tell him he deserves to enjoy his retirement. Make it sound like we're doing him a favor. Silence. I could picture Derek's face, that expression he got when he was thinking through angles. He'd inherited my features, but not my instincts. I'd built this company from nothing, spending 20-hour days in a rented warehouse, living on coffee and determination. Derek had been handed a corner office and a VP title at 25. "What about Mom?" he asked finally. "What about her?" "She'd have an opinion. Your mother does whatever your father tells her to. Always has. But honestly, she'd probably be relieved. She's been complaining about how much time he still spends at the office." That was a lie. My wife Ellen had never complained about my work. She understood what the company meant, what it represented. "I don't know," Derek said. "It feels wrong, like we're pushing him out." "We're not pushing him out. We're offering him an exit strategy before he needs one, before his health fails or the company suffers because he's too stubborn to let go. Derek, we're talking about a $20 million asset. Your father's great, but he's from a different generation. He doesn't understand digital integration, supply chain optimization, or modern management theory. We do. The company could double in value under the right leadership. Under our leadership. Yes, under our leadership. More silence. Rain continued its assault on the windows. I checked the recording. 4 minutes and counting. "How would we structure it?" Derek asked. My chest tightened. That was the question that mattered, not whether they should do it. How? Jessica's voice brightened. She'd won. "I've already talked to Richard Chen at North Point Capital. They specialize in family business transitions. He said they could arrange financing for a leveraged buyout using the company's assets as collateral. We'd need about $3 million in cash up front, which we have, and they'd cover the rest. Your father walks away with $12 million immediately, keeps his 20%, and we take over operations completely. What's the timeline? Richard suggested we move within the next 6 months. Strike while the industry's hot. If we wait until next year, the manufacturing sector could cool off. The longer we delay, the more risk we take. I stood up, walked to the window. Outside, the November rain had turned the driveway into a small river. My reflection stared back at me from the glass. Gray hair, deep lines around the eyes, the kind of face that had earned its wear honestly. I need to think about it, Derek said. Of course. But Derek, promise me you'll think about it seriously. This isn't just about us. It's about your future, our future, the kids' future. I know. Your father had his time to build something. Now it's our turn. I heard movement, footsteps. I sat back down on the couch, closed my eyes, and slowed my breathing. The office door opened. Dad? Derek's voice cautious. I gave it a beat, then made a show of waking up. Didn't mean to wake you, just checking if you wanted coffee. I opened my eyes, stretched. What time is it? Almost 4. I'm good, thanks. He nodded, lingered in the doorway. I could see him studying me, looking for signs of weakness, maybe justification. You feeling okay? He asked. Fine, why? You've been resting a lot lately. 32 years of 12-hour days catches up with you eventually. He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. You've earned the rest. Have I? The smile faltered. Of course. You built an amazing company, Dad. Everyone knows that. Not everyone appreciates it, though. His expression tightened. What's that supposed to mean? I stood, stretched again. Nothing. Just thinking out loud. Jessica appeared behind him in the doorway. Perfect timing. She always had perfect timing. Oh, James, I didn't know you were in here, she said, her voice sweet as poisoned honey. We were just having coffee in the living room. Want to join us? I'm fine. You two enjoy yourselves. We were actually talking about Thanksgiving plans, she continued. Thinking of hosting at our place this year. Give you and Ellen a break from all the work. Ellen loves hosting. I know, but she's been so busy lately. We thought it might be nice to take some pressure off. Everything was framed as kindness, as consideration, as doing us a favor. I'll mention it to her, I said. They left. I waited until I heard their car start in the driveway, then pulled up the recording and played it back. The audio was crystal clear. Every word, every pause, every moment of my son deciding that $20 million was worth more than loyalty. I forwarded the file to my personal cloud storage, made a backup on my computer, sent a copy to an encrypted email account I'd created years ago for sensitive business documents. Then I sat there in the growing darkness and thought about what came next. Ellen came home an hour later. I heard her car in the garage, the sound of grocery bags rustling. I walked into the kitchen as she was unloading produce. Hey, she said, kissing my cheek. You look tired. Long day. You say that every day. She studied my face. What's wrong? I'd been married to Ellen for 37 years. She could read me better than anyone. Derek and Jessica were here earlier. I know. Jessica texted me about Thanksgiving. What did she say? Ellen paused, a bunch of celery in her hand. That they wanted to host this year, that we deserve a break. What do you think about that? I think Jessica doesn't do anything without a reason. She set the celery down. What happened? I pulled out my phone, plugged it into the kitchen speaker system, and played the recording. Ellen's expression didn't change much as she listened. Her jaw tightened slightly. Her eyes grew harder, but she didn't interrupt, didn't gasp, didn't cry. She listened to the whole thing in silence, putting away groceries with mechanical precision. When it ended, she said, How long have you known? 4 hours. And you're just now telling me? I needed time to process it. She leaned against the counter. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. James. What? Don't lie to me. You already know exactly what you're going to do. You've been planning it since the moment you heard them. She was right. I'd spent the last 4 hours thinking through options, strategies, contingencies, old instincts kicking in. When I'd started the company in 1993, I'd been a nobody with a good idea and no money. I'd learned fast that the world didn't reward the passive. You had to be smarter, faster, and more ruthless than the people trying to take what you'd built. I'm going to destroy them, I said quietly. Ellen nodded. Good. That surprised me. You're not going to tell me to be reasonable, to talk it out? No. She picked up her phone. I'm going to help you. Ellen. That's our son on that recording, James. Our son, planning to steal your company and make it sound like he's doing you a favor. And that woman, that parasite he married, is the one pulling the strings. You never liked Jessica. I tried. God knows I tried. But every time I looked at her, I saw someone calculating angles, someone who saw us as obstacles instead of family. Ellen's voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly. When Derek married her, I told myself maybe I was wrong. Maybe she'd be good for him. Maybe she'd make him happy. And now? Now I know I was right the first time. I walked over and took her hands. They were cold. We have to be smart about this, I said. No mistakes. What's the first step? I need to know exactly what they're planning. The recording tells us their intentions, but not their full strategy. I need to know if anyone else is involved. I need to know what promises they've made, what deals they've already arranged. Richard Chen at North Point Capital. That's a start. But there might be others, board members, key employees. We need to know who's loyal and who's waiting for the right moment to jump ship. Ellen pulled her hands free and walked to the window. Outside, the rain had finally stopped. The sky was clearing, revealing the last traces of sunset. Derek's been scheduling meetings without you, she said. I noticed. 3 weeks ago, he had a closed-door session with Tom Bradley and Frank Morrison. Those were 2 of our 5 board members, both of them old friends, men I'd trusted for years. How do you know that? Linda told me. Linda was Tom Bradley's wife. She mentioned it at book club, said Tom had seemed stressed lately, business pressure. What else did she say? That Tom's been talking about succession planning. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Tom's been with me since the beginning. People change when there's money involved. She was right. I'd seen it before. Watched good men compromise their principles for the promise of profit. Tom Bradley and I had started as competitors in the same industry, then became partners when I'd acquired his failing company and made him part of my board. He'd been grateful then, loyal, but gratitude has a shelf life. I'll talk to him, I said. No. Ellen turned from the window. If you confront him directly, he'll know you're suspicious. He'll warn Derek. We lose the advantage. Then what? We watch. We listen. We gather information quietly. Let them think they're in control while we figure out exactly how deep this goes. I looked at my wife. Really looked at her. She'd spent 37 years being the supportive spouse, the gracious hostess, the woman who smiled at company events and never asked to be in the spotlight. I'd underestimated her, just like Derek and Jessica were underestimating both of us. When did you get so devious? I asked. She smiled. I've always been devious, James. You just never needed me to be before. We spent the next 2 hours at the kitchen table, making lists, people to watch, questions to answer, resources we could use without tipping our hand. The company's legal structure was complicated, layered with decades of growth and acquisition. Derek knew the surface details, but I'd built in protections he'd never thought to look for. Safeguards. Ways to maintain control even when it seemed like I'd delegated authority. What about the trust? Ellen asked. I'd almost forgotten. 5 years ago, on the advice of our estate attorney, I'd moved the company into a family trust. The goal was tax efficiency and estate planning, but the trust's terms were specific. Control was split between me and Ellen, with Derek named as a successor trustee only after both of us were gone or declared mentally incompetent. Derek doesn't know the full terms, I said slowly. He thinks he's already the heir. He is, eventually, but not yet, and not the way he thinks. Ellen leaned back in her chair. So, even if he convinces you to sell, he can't actually force it through without my agreement. Exactly. And the trust can't be dissolved without both of our signatures. Which means his entire plan falls apart the moment we say no. I nodded. But they don't know that yet. They think I'm the only obstacle. Let them keep thinking that. Ellen stood, started clearing the table. We need to be careful, James. If Derek realizes we're on to him, he might try something desperate. Like what? I don't know, but desperate people make stupid choices, and stupid choices lead to mistakes we can use. She was right again. The key to winning wasn't just having leverage, it was knowing when to use it. Strike too early, and they'd adapt. Strike too late, and they'd already have positioned themselves beyond reach. We need a timeline, I said. Based on the recording, they're planning to approach me within 6 months. That gives us time to prepare. What happens when they do approach you? I listen. I act surprised. I ask questions. I make them think I'm considering it. And while they think you're considering it? We dismantle their support system piece by piece. Board members, financial backing, key employees. By the time they realize what's happening, it'll be too late to stop it. Ellen came back to the table, sat down across from me. This is going to hurt, you know. Derek's still our son. I know. Even if he deserves what's coming. I know. She reached across the table, took my hand. Promise me something. What? Promise me that when this is over, we'll still be us. That we won't let their betrayal turn us into people we don't recognize. I squeezed her hand. I promise. But even as I said it, I wondered if it was a promise I could keep. The next morning, I went to the office early. 5:30 a.m., the building empty except for the security guard and the cleaning crew. I liked it this way. Quiet, focused, no interruptions. My office was on the 3rd floor, corner position with windows overlooking the manufacturing floor below. I'd designed it myself 20 years ago when we'd moved into this facility. I wanted to see the work being done, wanted to stay connected to the reality of what we built. I sat at my desk and pulled up the company's organizational chart. 43 employees. Some had been with me for decades. Others were recent hires Derek had brought in. I started making notes. Who reported to whom? Who had access to what information? Who would be most likely to know about Derek's plans? Then I opened the financial records, our bank accounts, investment portfolios, operating budgets. Everything was accessible to me as CEO and majority trustee. Derek had operational authority, but final financial decisions still required my signature. I spent 3 hours reviewing transactions from the past 6 months. Nothing jumped out as suspicious at first. Normal operating expenses, payroll, equipment purchases. But then I noticed something small, a consulting fee to a company called Meridian Strategic Advisors. $15,000 paid monthly for the last 4 months. I'd never heard of them. I did a quick search. Meridian Strategic Advisors specialized in business valuations and transition planning for family-owned companies. Their website featured testimonials from CEOs who'd used their services to maximize value during ownership transfers. Derek had hired them, without telling me. I sat back, felt that cold anger settling deeper. This wasn't a casual conversation between him and Jessica. This was active planning. They'd already started the process. I pulled up the company's contract management system, found the agreement with Meridian. It was signed by Derek using his COO authority. The scope of work included comprehensive business valuation, market analysis, and strategic recommendations for ownership restructuring. They'd already had us appraised. My phone buzzed. Ellen, texting from home. Tom Bradley's wife just called. Tom wants to have lunch with you this week. Says it's important. I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, "Tell her I'd love to. Friday work? I'll let her know." I set the phone down and looked out at the manufacturing floor below. The early shift was arriving now. Workers in their uniforms, carrying lunchboxes, talking and laughing as they punched in. These people depended on this company. They'd built lives around the stability we provided. Derek's plan would destroy that stability. A leveraged buyout meant loading the company with debt, cutting costs to service that debt, layoffs, reduced benefits, the slow erosion of everything we'd built, all so my son and his wife could cash out. I picked up the phone and called our corporate attorney, Michael Brennan. He'd handled our legal work for 15 years. I trusted him completely. "James," he answered, always alert despite the early hour. "What's going on?" "I need you to review the company trust documents, every clause, every provision. I want to know exactly what authority I have, what authority Ellen has, and what limitations exist on Derek's role." "Is there a problem?" "Maybe. I'd rather be prepared. I'll have a full analysis on your desk by tomorrow." "One more thing. I need you to look into Meridian Strategic Advisors. Derek hired them without my knowledge. I want to know what they've been doing, what they've reported, and whether any of their work creates legal obligations for the company." Silence on the other end. Then, "James, what's happening?" "I'm being thorough, Michael. That's all." "Thoroughness is good, but if there's a conflict developing within the family, I need to know. My obligations as corporate counsel get complicated when family members have opposing interests." "No conflict yet," I said. "Just due diligence." "All right, I'll get you that information." I hung up and turned back to my computer. There was an email from Derek, sent at 7 p.m. last night. The subject line read, "Board meeting agenda." I opened it. Standard stuff mostly. Quarterly financials, production updates. But there at the bottom, added almost as an afterthought. Discussion. Long-term succession planning and leadership transition strategies. He was going to bring it up at the next board meeting, in front of everyone. The meeting was scheduled for 2 weeks from now. I forwarded the email to Ellen, then started drafting my own agenda items. If Derek wanted to discuss succession planning, we'd discuss it. But on my terms, with my framing. I spent the rest of the day working through operational details, making appearances on the floor, talking to supervisors and workers. By the time I left at 6 p.m., I'd spoken to at least 20 people, asked questions, listened to concerns, made myself visible and engaged. Derek's office was dark when I passed it. He'd left early. I drove home thinking about Tom Bradley and Friday's lunch, about what he might say, about how to respond without revealing that I already knew what was coming. Ellen had dinner waiting. Chicken, roasted vegetables, the kind of simple meal we both preferred. "Michael called," she said as we sat down. "He sounded worried. He's a lawyer. Worrying is what we pay him for." "What did you ask him to do?" I told her about the trust review and the Meridian investigation. "Good," she said. "We need to know exactly where we stand legally before Derek makes his move." "He's planning to bring it up at the board meeting." Her fork paused halfway to her mouth. "When?" 2 weeks. That's fast. They're confident. They think they've already won. We ate in silence for a while. Then Ellen said, "I called Angela Morrison." Frank Morrison's wife, the other board member Derek had met with privately. "What did you tell her?" "That I was organizing a charity auction for the hospital foundation. Asked if she'd help with planning. She said yes, of course, and we're having coffee tomorrow." "You think she knows something?" "I think Frank tells Angela everything. Always has. If he's involved in Derek's plan, she'll know. And you'll get it out of her. Ellen smiled. You have your methods. I have mine. I'd forgotten how formidable my wife could be when motivated. For years, she'd been content to operate in the background, supportive but not active. Now, with her son's betrayal as catalyst, she was fully engaged. We made a dangerous team. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the recording in my head. Jessica's voice, cold and calculating. Derek's voice, interested and complicit. The casual way they discussed dismantling everything I'd built. Around 2 a.m., I got up and went to my office. Pulled out the old photo albums Ellen kept in the closet. Found pictures of Derek as a kid, birthday parties, Christmas mornings, his high school graduation, the day he'd joined the company. In every photo, he was smiling, happy, or at least he'd seemed happy. When had that changed? When had he started seeing me as an obstacle instead of his father? Or maybe I was the one who'd changed. Maybe I'd been so focused on building the company that I'd missed the moment when my son stopped wanting to earn his place and started feeling entitled to it. I closed the album and put it away. This wasn't about understanding what went wrong. This was about responding to what was happening now, and what was happening now was war. 15 months after Derek resigned, my phone rang at 3 a.m. Ellen stirred beside me. Who is it? I checked the screen. Bill Foster. This better be important, I said, answering. James, we have a problem. There's a fire at the main warehouse. I was out of bed before he finished the sentence. The drive to the facility took 20 minutes. I could see the smoke from a mile away, thick and black against the pre-dawn sky. Fire trucks surrounded the building, hoses spraying water through shattered windows. Bill met me at the perimeter. How bad? I asked. Bad. Started in the east storage section around 2 a.m., spread fast. Anyone hurt? Night security guard got out okay. Inhaled some smoke, but he'll be fine. Cause? Fire marshal's investigating. Won't know for sure until they can get inside. I stood there watching 30 years of work burn. Contracts in that warehouse, inventory, equipment, millions of dollars going up in smoke. My phone buzzed. Text from Derek. Saw the news, everyone okay? I stared at the message. First direct contact in over a year. Security guard inhaled smoke, otherwise clear. I typed back. Good. Let me know if you need anything. I didn't respond to that. The fire burned for 4 more hours. By the time they got it under control, the east section was gone. The rest was smoke and water damaged. Insurance would cover most of it. But the disruption, the lost contracts, the damage to reputation, that was harder to quantify. I spent the next 2 days in crisis mode, calling clients, reassuring them, finding alternate suppliers, rescheduling deliveries. Bill Foster worked around the clock helping. So did Sarah Chen. The whole team stepped up. On day 3, the fire marshal came by my office. We've completed the initial investigation, he said. And? Point of origin was the electrical panel in the east storage area. But here's the thing. The panel showed signs of tampering. Something cold settled in my stomach. Tampering how? Someone bypassed the circuit breakers, created a condition where overload was inevitable. You're saying this was arson. I'm saying it wasn't an accident. Whether it was intentional arson or negligent maintenance, that's for the police to determine. Our maintenance records are impeccable. We have monthly inspections. I know. That's why I flagged it for criminal investigation. After he left, I sat alone in my office thinking about who might want to hurt the company. Competitors, disgruntled employees, random vandals, or Derek. No. I dismissed that immediately. Derek might be angry, might be competitive, but he wouldn't burn down a building. That wasn't him, but Jessica. The thought crept in, unwanted. Jessica had no moral boundaries I could identify. Everything was calculation. Everything was strategy. Would she hurt my company to help Derek's? I called Ellen. The fire was arson, I said. What? How? I told her about the electrical panel. Oh my God, who would do that? I don't know, but I need to find out. James, be careful. If this is criminal, you need to let the police handle it. I will, but I'm also going to do my own digging. I started with security footage. Our cameras covered the perimeter and main entrances. I reviewed 3 days of recordings before the fire. Most of it was routine. Workers coming and going, delivery trucks, the usual activity. But then I saw something. 2 nights before the fire, a car in the parking lot at 11 p.m. It sat there for 20 minutes, then left. The angle wasn't great, but I could make out the license plate. I ran it through a database search, registered to a leasing company. But the make and model was distinctive. A silver Lexus sedan. Jessica drove a silver Lexus sedan. I replayed the footage. The driver never got out, just sat there, watching. It could be a coincidence. Silver Lexuses weren't exactly rare, but my gut said otherwise. I called the detective assigned to the case, Frank Miller, mid-40s, tired eyes. Mr. Logan, what can I do for you? I found something on our security footage, a car that doesn't belong, 2 nights before the fire. Send me the timestamp. I'll review it. There's something else. The car matches one driven by my daughter-in-law, Jessica Logan. Silence. Then, your son's wife. Yes. The son you're in a business dispute with. It's not a dispute. He quit and started a competing company. Still, that's going to complicate things if we need to investigate her. I understand, but I'm telling you what I saw. Send me the footage. I'll look into it. I forwarded the file and sat back, feeling sick. If Jessica was involved, Derek might be too, or at least complicit. The thought of my son burning down my warehouse was almost too much to process. That evening, Ellen and I sat in the living room, neither of us watching the TV that was on. What if Derek knew? Ellen asked quietly. Then he's more far gone than I thought. What will you do? Wait for the investigation, see what they find. But waiting felt impossible. 2 days later, Detective Miller called. We reviewed your footage. The car is registered to Coastal Vehicle Leasing. They lease primarily to businesses, not individuals. Can you find out who was leasing it? We're working on it, but these companies aren't always cooperative without a warrant. And to get a warrant, I need probable cause beyond a suspicious car in a parking lot. What about the license plate? Can you check traffic cameras, see where it went? Already did. It left your facility and headed west on Highway 71. Lost it after that. Too many gaps in camera coverage. So we've got nothing. Not nothing, but not enough. Keep digging on your end. If you find something concrete, let me know. I spent the next week obsessing over it, reviewed more footage, talked to employees, checked vendor records. Nothing. Then Sarah Chen came to my office with something interesting. I was reviewing insurance claims, she said, and I noticed that Derek's company filed a claim 6 months ago, equipment damage from a power surge. So the electrical issue they reported is similar to what happened here. Bypassed circuit breakers leading to overload. I sat up straighter. You think it's connected? I think it's worth investigating. What if whoever did this to us also did it to Derek? Or what if Derek learned the method from his own incident? Can you get me the details of their claim? I can try, but it might take some time. Insurance records are confidential. Do what you can. 3 days later, she had it. Derek's insurance claim included photos of the damaged equipment, and in those photos, clear evidence of the same tampering pattern. Someone sabotaged Derek's company first, Sarah said, then ours. Or Derek learned how to do it from his own incident and used that knowledge against us. Would he really do that? I wanted to say no, wanted to believe my son incapable of such a thing. But I didn't know anymore. I took the information to Detective Miller. Interesting, he said, reviewing the photos. Same pattern, same method. So either we have a serial arsonist targeting manufacturing companies, or Derek's involved somehow. Or he's a victim turned perpetrator, learned from his own incident. Can you question him? On what basis? This is all circumstantial. I need something more direct. Like what? Witnesses, physical evidence, a confession. I left the police station frustrated. Everything pointed to Derek or Jessica, but nothing proved it. That night, I made a decision. I was going to confront Derek directly. Ellen tried to talk me out of it. If he did this, confronting him could be dangerous. He's my son, not a criminal. People do crazy things when cornered. I'll be careful. I drove to Derek's office the next morning. Phoenix Manufacturing had grown quickly. Sleek building, modern design, everything new and shiny. The receptionist tried to stop me. I'm sorry, Mr. Logan. Derek's in a meeting. I'll wait. I sat in the lobby for 40 minutes before Derek appeared. Dad, what are you doing here? We need to talk. He looked around at the receptionist, the few employees moving through the space. My office, he said. I followed him back. His office was smaller than mine had been, but well appointed. Pictures of Jessica on the desk, industry awards on the wall. What's this about? He asked, closing the door. The fire at my warehouse. The police think it was arson. Something flickered across his face. Surprise? Guilt? I saw that on the news. Terrible. Yeah. And then I found out your company had a similar incident 6 months ago. Equipment damage from a power surge. Different situation. Same pattern. Bypassed circuit breakers. Same method. Derek's expression hardened. What are you suggesting? I'm asking if you had anything to do with my fire. Jesus Christ. He stood up, walked to the window. You really think I'd burn down your building? I don't know what you're capable of anymore. He spun around. I quit your company. I built my own. I compete with you fairly. But you think I'd resort to arson? To destruction? Someone did, and the evidence points to either you or Jessica. Evidence? What evidence? A similar electrical issue? That's not evidence, Dad. That's paranoia. There was a car in my parking lot 2 nights before the fire. Silver Lexus. Jessica drives a silver Lexus. Derek went very still. You're tracking my wife now? I'm investigating a crime. No. You're looking for someone to blame. And because you can't accept that your precious company is vulnerable, you've decided I must be responsible. Are you? Derek, I said get out. I left. Drove home feeling empty and confused. Ellen was waiting. How did it go? He denied it, got angry, threw me out. Do you believe him? I don't know. He seemed genuinely surprised, but he's always been good at hiding his feelings. That night, I got a call from Detective Miller. We got the warrant for the leasing company records. The car in your footage was leased to a shell corporation. We're still tracking down who owns it, but we're getting closer. How long? Maybe a week. A week felt like forever. But 3 days later, Miller called back. We found the owner of the shell corporation. You're not going to like it. Who? Richard Chen, from North Point Capital. The investment group Derek had been working with for the buyout plan. Why would they burn down my warehouse? We don't know yet, but we brought Chen in for questioning. He's lawyered up, not talking. But we searched his office and found some interesting communications. What kind of communications? Emails between Chen and Jessica Logan, discussing strategies to devalue your company, make it vulnerable to acquisition. My blood went cold. Jessica was working with them? According to the emails, yes. The plan was to create problems for Logan and Sons, labor disputes, supply chain issues, and yes, the fire. Does Derek know? We don't have evidence of that yet, but we're investigating. I hung up and immediately called Ellen. Jessica was behind the fire, working with Richard Chen. Oh my God. The police are investigating. They'll probably arrest her soon. What about Derek? They don't know if he was involved. But I needed to know. Needed to hear it from him directly. I drove to his house. Jessica's Lexus was in the driveway. I knocked. Derek answered, looking surprised. "Dad, what? Is Jessica home?" "Yeah, why?" "I need to talk to both of you." He let me in, confusion clear on his face. Jessica appeared from the kitchen. Her expression went carefully neutral when she saw me. "James, what a surprise." "The police know about the fire," I said. "They know about your arrangement with Richard Chen." The color drained from her face. Derek looked between us. "What arrangement?" "Your wife conspired with North Point Capital to sabotage my company. They burned down my warehouse." "That's ridiculous," Jessica said, but her voice shook. "Is it? Because the police have emails, communications between you and Chen, discussing strategies to devalue Logan and Sons." Derek turned to Jessica. "Tell me he's lying." She didn't respond. "Jessica, tell me he's lying." "It's not what it sounds like," she said finally. "Then what is it?" "Chen approached me months ago. Said if we could create some problems for your father's company, lower its value, we could buy it cheaper. I thought—" "You thought what? That burning down his warehouse was acceptable?" "I didn't know about the fire. Chen said small problems, labor issues, supply delays. I never authorized arson." But her eyes said otherwise. Derek stepped back from her like she'd transformed into something unrecognizable. "Get out," he said quietly. "Derek, get out of my house, now." Jessica grabbed her purse and left without another word. Derek and I stood in his living room, the silence crushing. "I didn't know," he said finally. "I swear to God, Dad, I didn't know." "I believe you." "She played me, used me. Everything we built, everything I've done, it's all tainted now." "Not everything. Your company is yours. What she did doesn't change that." "But it does. Every success I've had, people will wonder if it was legitimate or if she was sabotaging the competition. Then prove them wrong. Build something so undeniably good that no one can question it." Derek sat down heavily on the couch. "I'm sorry, for all of it. The buyout plan, the betrayal, trusting her." "I know. Do you forgive me?" I thought about that. About forgiveness and trust and whether they were the same thing. "Eventually," I said. "But not today." He nodded. "That's fair." I left him there, sitting in the ruins of his marriage and his plans. The next week, Jessica was arrested, charged with conspiracy to commit arson, among other things. Richard Chen was also arrested. Derek filed for divorce. The story made industry news. Scandalous tale of family business warfare gone wrong. Some people thought I'd orchestrated it all. Others thought Derek had been the mastermind. The truth was more complicated and sadder. My warehouse was rebuilt over the next 6 months. Insurance covered most of it. We recovered the lost contracts. The company survived. Derek's company also survived. Took a hit from the publicity, but weathered it. We still didn't speak much. Occasional text messages, brief conversations at industry events. But something had shifted. The anger was gone, replaced by something quieter. Regret, maybe. Or just exhaustion. One evening, almost 2 years after Derek had quit, Ellen and I were having dinner when my phone rang. Derek. "Hey," he said when I answered. "Hey. I'm selling Phoenix Manufacturing." That surprised me. Why? Because I built it for the wrong reasons, as revenge, as proof, but not because I loved it. Not the way you love Logan and Sons. "What will you do?" "I don't know yet. Maybe something completely different. Maybe nothing for a while." "That's fair." Silence. Then, "Dad, I know we're not okay, and maybe we never will be, but I want you to know I'm sorry, really sorry, for everything." "I know, Derek. Do we have a chance of fixing this?" I looked at Ellen across the table. She was watching me, waiting. "Yes," I said, "but it's going to take time." "I have time." "So do I."